Welcome, everybody. Welcome students, alumni, staff, and faculty, and local business community members. On behalf of the Offices of Career and Personal Development and Alumni Relations, I thank you for your participation today in our second annual Making a Difference and Making a Living Career Conference. Hi, I'm Anna Whitcomb, a graduate of the class of 71, and I see thanks, a shout out from our class. And current trustee of the college, I have spent a significant part of my professional career as principal and owner of a career counseling and coaching business. I am very familiar with the kinds of career challenges and needs people have facing current job market. Students, thank you for joining us today. I hope that what you hear from our alumni will provide you with inspiration and valuable information that will influence you for your future career choices. Be open-minded and be sure to ask questions, especially when we get to the panel. Our alumni are eager to help you. Alumni, class of 71, thank you so much for taking the time to return to GMC, to take part in this important event, and for being willing to share your story, your knowledge, and your enthusiasm. Whether a TED Talk speaker, panelist, professional participant thinking about how to develop your own professional path, we appreciate your contribution to this conference. And to this college, for the success of our students by helping them explore career options. To our staff and faculty and potential employers in our local community, your role is very important as you guide our students and alumni toward meaningful work and help connect them to internships and especially job opportunities. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to fostering the ideals of environmental and personal responsibility, civic engagement, entrepreneurial spirit, and global understanding that our college so emphasizes. For we are fortunate to have a board of trustees that supports these goals wholeheartedly. And today we are fortunate to have our chair, Dr. Anthony Cortese, is here to provide opening remarks. But first, let me introduce Tony. Tony is principal of the Intentional Endowment Network, whose purpose is to foster sustainable investing, and was the founder of Second Nature, the Boston-based advocacy organization committed to creating a just and sustainable society through higher education. He was the organizer of a pact of 685 colleges and universities, including our college, Green Mountain College, to become carbon neutral in operations and educate its students on sustainability. He worked for the US EPA and was commissioner of Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. He was the first dean of environmental programs at Tufts University in environmental, and he also has a degree, a BS and MS degree in civil and environmental engineering from Tufts. He has a doctorate of science in environmental health sciences from Harvard School of Public Health and honorary degrees from Allegheny College, SUNY Oswego, the University of Maine Presque Isle. He is a frequent speaker and author on higher education's role for sustainable society. Please welcome Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I cannot tell you how delighted I am to be serving Green Mountain College as the chair of the Board of Trustees. It is an honor. It is one of the greatest honors of my life. I love Green Mountain College, and in a few minutes I'm going to tell you why. Let me just give you a little perspective. I'm going to talk a little bit about my life journey, and it's not about me, but where it led me. I grew up in the north end of Boston, which is right on Boston Harbor. It's an Italian, blue-collar Italian-American community. My father was an immigrant from Italy with third-grade education, and he worked his whole life as a in a shoe factory making shoes. And he was actually sewing the soles on the bottom of shoes. Of course, what he wanted was for his children to get a good education so that we would have a better life. And while I was growing up, we used to go swimming in Boston Harbor until I was about age 8. And they stopped us because it was so polluted. It was an open sewer. It's a good thing. I might not be around today. So I dutifully, as I went off to follow what my father's ideas were, I decided to go to college, and because I was good in science and math, I went into engineering. And as I was pursuing my degrees in engineering, I began to relate back to what it was like when I was a kid. And I wondered, and I thought, first of all, I was very upset that anybody should have to swim in polluted water. I thought that was wrong. And secondly, I was wondering what I could be doing to help prevent those kinds of problems in the future. So I got to work for the EPA, as you heard, and then I got to run the State Environmental Department in Massachusetts. And I was involved in a lot of the seminal environmental legislation that set the framework for how we do business today. But I learned 3 important things. One was that all the laws and regulations were necessary but far from sufficient in solving the problems that we had. The second thing I learned was that what we don't have are environmental problems, but we have the environmental consequences of the way we've organized society politically, technologically, economically, and socially. And the third thing that I learned was that growth was overwhelming all of the efforts that we were making, and at the same time, there are these incredible public health problems on a worldwide basis, the disparity between the rich and the poor, 2 or 3 billion people that don't have access to sanitation, and those problems were beginning to get worse. And what I began to realize is that the way we looked at problems in the world was that we have social, health, political, economic, environmental, human rights, and security issues as separate issues, but they're not. They are systemic and interdependent, and we need to approach them in a systemic way. Einstein once said, we can't solve today's problems at the level of thinking at which they were first created. So what we need to do is think much more systemically. So, and the other thing that I learned was that I was not doing well in helping people see that there are different ways to do business. So I began to wonder, what is it about the mindset? What is it about the mindset that we think we can pollute now and worry later? Or that you can't have economic growth and environmental protection at the same time? And so I went back to higher education, and I learned that in fact, the way we are teaching people in silos, and also assuming that the earth will always be the gift that keeps on giving all the resources we need and assimilating all our waste, was being enabled by the education system. So I began to focus on how can we transform the education system in higher education. And that resulted in a whole bunch of efforts that were going on at a number of schools around the country. And fast forward, it led me to Green Mountain College. How? Well, we created a compact of colleges and universities that were going to commit to becoming carbon neutral in their operations, and also to transform the way they were teaching. And one of the first schools that wanted to do this was Green Mountain College. And I had the pleasure of meeting Paul Fontaine, who was one of the first group of college presidents that wanted to step forward and say, we need to put a stake in the ground and we need to be a model of sustainable behavior in everything we do, and we need to educate the students as part of that and make it fundamental part of the education process. And he asked me to join the board of Green Mountain College. It was soon after he became the president. And it has been an incredible pleasure for me. I was immediately attracted to GMC. You know why? Because I found that the whole idea of teaching students to think systemically and to look for root causes of problems and to come up with solutions that will last for a very long period of time was exactly what Green Mountain College was all about. I learned about the outstanding faculty. I learned about the creative students. I learned about the connection in which all the students were connecting to their community and to the external community as well. And then when I learned all the things that they were trying to do at Green Mountain College, I was just blown away. And I've had the pleasure of being here while Paul has been the president for most of the time. And as you all know, he's going to be ending his 8-year tenure in May. And I just want to take a minute to say what a pleasure it has been to have him as the president of Green Mountain College. From when he took over, he increased the quality of the students, the quality of the faculty. He put us on the map nationally as one of the, quote, greenest colleges and universities in the country. And we have now one of the best national reputations of any college or university. Our only problem is that we're the biggest secret in the world. I call us the little green giant that is really making a huge difference in the world. So I just want to say, Paul, thank you very much. And if you just stand up, just so we can give you a little hand. I cannot tell you what a difference he's made, and it is absolutely terrific. And we will have big shoes to fill. We're in the process of looking for a new president, and we think we'll have an answer to that relatively soon. But back to Green Mountain College and to what I learned. Here's what I learned about my own career. The first is a lot of the things that I thought I knew were wrong. The second is that I had no idea when I was first going to college that I would ever have had the path that I have had in life. And that while I may have had dreams, but they weren't as wild as the ones that have come out. And I've changed jobs many, many times, and that is going to happen to all of you. And one of the things that I learned recently is that it's projected that by 2040, 70% of the jobs in the world do not exist today. Okay? So what kind of education is going to prepare you for that? It's the kind of education you get at Green Mountain College. And we take sustainability to be the goal and the mission of the institution. Why? It's not about the environment. It's how do we create a decent quality of life for every person so that everybody has a decent job. We have strong, secure, thriving communities. And that we're leaving the life support system in good enough shape that the young people will have the same opportunity or better opportunity than we have today. That's what we mean by authentic sustainability. And that's why I am so excited about being on the board of trustees of Green Mountain College. Today, for you students, you're going to learn a whole bunch of things. You're going to have an opportunity to interact with a wonderful bunch of alumni. For the alumni, it is a wonderful opportunity for us to celebrate you. And the whole community, from alumni to the faculty, to the staff, to the trustees, and to the students, this is all about a lifelong community. And one of the things that I have learned over and over again is that we are now in a situation in the world where the opportunities are enormous, enormous. And many of the people you're going to hear today are going to tell you about those opportunities. And by the way, you're going to need lifelong learning. And so it is my wonderful pleasure to spend a few minutes with you, but to tell you how, from my perspective, and I've worked with a lot of colleges and universities, several hundred of them, and to say that Green Mountain College is my model of, not my model, but it's my opinion of the best model for a liberal arts education that you can ever get. So Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you, Tony, for sharing your personal journey and your ongoing devoted commitment to Green Mountain College and sustainability. We greatly appreciate it. Now to our next speaker. Conte Monroe is our first TED Talk speaker today. As a GMC student, Conte designed his own renewable energy applications major and initiated independent projects, including the installation of a wind turbine on the campus, which helped to influence the college's current renewable energy and ecological design program. Since his graduation 12 years ago, he has become an expert on the solar photovoltaic industry. He works as a leadership role at Same Son of Vermont Solar Electric Systems Design and Installation Company, where he has hired and managed 10 GMC alumni. He also is a senior solar instructor teaching photovoltaics courses at Solar Energy International. His articles have been published in industry journals, specifically Solar Pro and Home Power magazines. Please welcome Conte. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I start, I just have a quick disclaimer. If you hear a shout from the front of the room here, or my phone rings repeatedly, you may be witness to one of the shortest TED Talks in history. I will be out that door quite quickly to help my wife deliver our third child, who is due at any time. Thank you. Thank you. I just figured out why they asked me to go first. So, just in case, thank you all very much for listening. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you. All right, I guess I got to keep going. So today the story I want to share with you is the experiential journey that I've been on that has really shaped my perspective on career, family, purpose. But before I do, I want to start off with a really, really simple question. I think everybody should have no problem answering this question. So by a show of hands, how many people here have it completely figured out? You know exactly what you want to do when you graduate, when you grow up, who you want to be, and what you want to do. Okay. Yeah, not such a simple question. I think we have this concept that we go to college, we invest quite heavily to do so nowadays, and we come out with not only a degree, but a career. But I've also heard it been said that college is simply a very expensive way to find out what you don't want to do. For me, personally, college here at GMC was an invaluable means to create experiences that were of significant interest to me personally, significant experiences that I could have without the burden of excessive responsibility. Loans hadn't kicked in, the family wasn't here, no full-time job. It was an incredible opportunity, and I think that college, in my experience here at GMC in particular, was a real catalyst. I think it has the potential to be an unbelievable catalyst, but only if we apply ourselves. And I believe that our potential is unlimited if we don't settle, if we don't stagnate, if we don't fear failure. My story personally began in the office of my high school guidance counselor, just minutes after I announced to him that I would like to drop out of high school. My family had just made a big move from California to the inner city Boston area, and it was quite a shock. I felt in some ways socially isolated, academically unchallenged, and found myself with significant more interest in extracurricular activities than grades. So after a few meetings that happened fairly quickly, and about a year of working 3 jobs, I would spend the next 6 months at sea on a tall ship sailing the South Pacific while graduating high school on a program called Class Afloat. 6 months at sea taught me a great deal. It taught me about resilience. It taught me about courage. It taught me about discipline. And it was my first real exposure to vastly different cultures, extremely isolated lands, and the profound interconnectedness of our great blue planet. But it was also my first introduction, a real exposure to electricity, or better yet, lack thereof, of affordable, available, clean electricity outside of the United States. It was truly amazing. So somewhere at sea, I want to say between the Panama Canal and the Galapagos Islands, I would submit an application for admission to a small environmental liberal arts college in Vermont. So inspiring, though, was the adventure that I decided to defer my admissions to GMC and find out what else the world could teach me. So I packed up my bags, set off, and was gone for about a year. I spent my 19th birthday in New Delhi. I spent my 20th birthday in Bangkok. I learned a tremendous amount about the world. I learned a lot about myself. I learned some yoga and how not great I am at it. I learned some Reiki, which was very interesting because I was starting to formulate some interest in energy outside of myself, and that was about energy within yourself. And I had the very fortunate experience of being invited in to live for a month in a off-grid tin shack with a Tibetan monk who had sought asylum in northern India after the Cultural Revolution in China and Tibet. So under candlelight, we would spend hours together, me and this Tibetan monk, in about a 10 by 10 room. That was his house. And we would work on his English, and he'd work on my Buddhism and teach me about the Tibetan culture. But I was constantly amazed and taken aback watching young children, my own age, reading and doing their homework by the fumy and smoggy glow of a kerosene lamp, rubbing their eyes and coughing the whole while. And I would watch with disbelief, as well as women in the village would walk what seemed like probably at least a mile or two for clean drinking water every single day. And it was at that very moment, in that tin shack, that I decided that I was going to do something with my life. I was going to do something that was going to make a difference for people like these that had no access to a light bulb or a bottle of water. And for the first time in my whole life, I felt a tremendous sense of purpose. So the irony, of course, was coming back to the States and quickly realizing that our overconsumptive, extremely wasteful American ways was in much greater need of help than of those that we're living with so much less. So I felt quite at home here at GMC from the start, but my newfound passion for renewable energy was not then supported by any current degree programs or certificate tracks. So I went about to change that. And that is one of the best things about this institution is the personal relationships you can develop with the faculty here. With some very inspiring and dedicated faculty, I designed my own major in renewable energy applications, did half a dozen independent studies, put up a wind turbine, installed solar panels. I tried to apply my passion to every class that I took, even statistics. I don't remember how I did that, but I did. And what it did, though, was that it made every class here, even the requirements, the ones that aren't necessarily part of your major, it brought real-world relevance to every single topic that I learned about, and it made every course fascinating to me. And I think that's one of the major downfalls that so many students have, is that there is a disconnect between what you are learning, what is reading about in your book, and how that is relevant to the real world. And that is a big testament to GMC. But also, again, I think is dependent on how we apply ourselves. The first solar, electric, or photovoltaic system that I designed was huge. It powered NPR and a single CFL light bulb in my 10-man tent during my summer internship in the Rockies. I would spend all day for 3 months studying every aspect of solar, wind, microhydro, natural fuels, building techniques, and I'd go home to my tent every night. I would turn on my light bulb that I did not take for granted, out in a field with the Rockies in the distance. And I would listen to the news and recap what I had learned. My second or third solar installation powered the entire construction of and the current off-grid residence of a faculty member here at the college, which I'm very proud of. So today, a decade after graduating, it's hard to believe, my journey continues. Every day, a new chance for a new experience, including this one right now. Never done this before. What's amazing to me is that in 10 years, the last 10 years, the sun has not only kept me alive, but it has literally, well, not literally, but it has paid my salary. That blows my mind. The solar industry has been kind enough to me to allow me to buy a home here in Poultney and to raise a growing family, for which I'm very, very grateful for. The interesting thing to me is making a living it can be very easy, or it can be very hard. It's completely dependent on our drive to apply ourselves and our ability to live simply and within our means. This part, the making the difference part, that is different for each one of us. Making a difference, to me, is about purpose and spirit. It's about having the courage to continuously seek out new experience to help find that purpose. Because with purpose comes spirit. And with spirit comes success. So I just want to leave you with a quote from one of my favorite authors that has and continues to influence my children every day. Dr. Seuss said, "You have a brain in your head. You have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself in any direction you choose. Thank you.
Thank you, Conte. Purpose and spirit and making a difference. So very important for all of us to experience as we move forward in our career path and making the world a better place. And thank you for sharing your adventuresome life and career that you've taken. Now I wish to introduce Aaron Fernandez. Aaron has led Vermont Adaptive Ski Sports for 15 years and is executive director, where she has been instrumental in its growth of Vermont Adaptive, which has become the largest year-round disabled sports nonprofit organization in Vermont. It offers diverse programs, opportunities, and unique specialized equipment to individuals with physical, cognitive, and emotional disabilities from all over the world. Vermont Adaptive promotes independence, furthers equality for their clients through access to and instruction in diverse sports and recreational opportunities as well, including alpine skiing, one of my favorites, snowboarding, kayaking, canoeing, sailing, cycling, hiking, rock climbing, and more. Aaron's staff oversees over 400 volunteers. Like Conte, Aaron has hired and managed several GMC alums over time. Currently, 2 alumni are on her staff, including Maggie Burke, who is one of the speakers on our business and entrepreneurship panel. Aaron also provided several internship opportunities to GMC students over the years. Thank you. Aaron, welcome her.
Thank you. So I'm just honored to be part of this conference this year, so thank you for the invitation and including me. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I just want to clarify what making a living and making a difference means to me. Making a living means that I can do some online shopping and also contribute like a responsible adult to some of our household bills. And making a difference is a little bit more interpretive to everybody, but it's having the ability to do something good, to make some positive change, and it could be a big or small effort. So my journey starts out when I grew up in New Jersey. I worked for my parents, and I was teaching skiing before I was old enough to be paid. And I was pretty sure I was paid in Bubblicious bubblegum. I mean, I was young. But I started to believe in the culture and the philosophies that I was learning, being part of a community. And I realized when I was young, having a high sense of purpose is really important to me. If you look at the synonyms for that word, driven, determined, tenacious, that pretty much sums up who I am. And I'm lucky enough to have a career today where I can harness those hardwired skills and at least use them to do some good. So going back to when I was young, flashback, it was the era of neon clothes, big hair, Duran Duran. Snowboarding was very brand new. And I took my level 1 exam with the Professional Ski Instructors of America. And that I was 15. I think I was even too young to really be part of it, but we probably fudged my age. My father had been part of the ski industry for many years and part of PSIA's association. And it just seemed like second nature to me. So nobody was really surprised to see me with this group of older men and, taking some exam. So I went on to teach skiing for many years beyond that, and I ended up here at Green Mountain College in 1991. And I continued to teach skiing while I was here as a student. And it really resonated with me to continue to pursue the educational component of being part of that culture. And I really decided I wanted to be one of the youngest women examiners and part of their national representation and regional representation. So I moved up to Killington against my mom's better judgment, but I knew I would find there the resources that I needed to continue to train and develop and hone in my skills. My first year at Killington, I met Irene. She was probably 10, really itty-bitty for her age, from New Jersey, and she skied with me every weekend, from the beginning of the season to the very last day. No matter what other clients I skied with, Irene was by my side. I had beginner skiers, advanced skiers, race weeks, you name it. She and I were together. Everyone knew her. She had an enormous personality. And she's important to my story because she's my friend. She's still my friend. But also because she has a cognitive disability. To this day, I don't really know what her disability is. And her disability doesn't define her. And her parents never let a label define her. So that relationship is where I really learned my values that I prioritize today. And those include independence, self-confidence, enabling people to do what they want to do, inclusion, empowerment. So I'm so lucky now to be able to follow through full circle with where I am today. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in my career. So I continued to train at Killington. I used my time wisely, and I passed my level 3 exam in 1995. And I was really young, so it was quite an accomplishment. And it was also an accomplishment for my gender to be part of that elite boys club that is hard to break into as a female. But I also had earned the same level certification that my dad had had, so I followed in his footsteps. It was kind of like a legacy thing that really drove me into wanting to do that. And the following summer, I was in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. And I learned what it's like to lose your purpose and identity. I tried to stay in the industry I knew best, and I was really unsuccessful at it. I continued to teach skiing, but like super diminished capacity. It wasn't fulfilling for me at all. And so over the years, my skills were just pushed towards some supervisory and leadership and training skills. And it wasn't the best time for me, but I got married and I settled down in Rutland. And those big life changes sometimes just give you an opportunity to look at things a little bit differently. I started looking around my community where I could do some good. I joined some boards, I got involved in nonprofits. I wanted to learn everything I could about development and grant writing. So that's what I did for the next few years. And then in 2002, I was hired as executive director for Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports. And that truly was my aha moment. My career now intersected with my values, my skills and talents I had used, developed all those years in the ski industry, but also the skills and leadership qualities that I was looking to fulfill in nonprofit leadership. And it's very rewarding when you can harness that sense of purpose to do some good. So if we all could be that lucky to find what our sense of purpose is, for a moment, if you would just imagine a diagram, and there's 4 circles in that diagram, they're the same size, 2 above and 2 below. In the first circle lives that which you love. And in the second circle lives that which you're good at. In the third, that which you can be paid for. And in the fourth circle, that which the world needs. If you bring them closer together, in the new spaces where those circles start to intersect and overlap, lives mission, vision, vocation, passion. And at the very center of that diagram, you can find your purpose. So, Vermont Adaptive, we're statewide. We serve all sorts of populations, all sorts of ages, and we offer programs year-round. We talked about some of the alpine skiing, snowboarding, our very popular programs. But during my tenure at Green Mountain College, our headquarters is only 40 minutes away from here. So we've had the opportunity to work with the school here and to connect with many of the students. Our programs really have some similarities in the studies that are here. Environmental education, outdoor rec, therapeutic rec, adventure recreation. So the students have really been serving our organization many, many years, and I think we've been offering excellent opportunities to learn some really lifelong skills. I usually have about 15 or so interns annually that work for our staff. And I've probably hired 12 staff during my tenure at Vermont Adaptive of Green Mountain grads for full-time employment. 90% of them have been absolutely amazing. And I'd rather not talk about the dirty details of the other 10%. So we'll go with the 90. Good job, Green Mountain. There's great students here. But the connections we have with the school, it's really wonderful, and it really helps us build the community and build the relations here so that we continue to build our organization as well. I want to share another story. Well, first I want to talk a little bit about Vermont Adaptive, because I am supposed to teach you all here something tonight. Vermont Adaptive, our budget is under $1 million, but we produce over $1.5 million worth of programming annually, and we do that because we have over 400 volunteers on our roster. And in Vermont ranks, this is statistics that just came out from 2014, but they're recently published. Vermont ranks 7th in the nation for their volunteer rate. It's pretty amazing. And Vermonters are more likely to donate their time than they are to give their money. So, well done, Vermont. That is how we get it done, and we can do so much more because people give their time. So there's 3 W's. There's work, wealth, and wisdom. If you have time to volunteer, it really impacts organizations like ours that thrive on that type of support. And you should volunteer for something that fills your Make a Difference tank, because not everybody's career is going to be some, fulfilling career where you're just out saving the world and doing great things. And that's okay. But if you do have some free time, volunteer. So next, I do want to share a story about someone else who makes a difference at Vermont Adaptive. He supports our organization on many levels. His family volunteers. He's an excellent advisor for me on an executive level. But he makes a difference because he gives financially to our organization in ways where we can reach strategic milestones and really important goals So there's another way to make a difference. You can give. You can donate your treasure. And the one thing I want to make sure everybody understands, when you donate your treasure, it should be significant. But significant is only measured by what that means to you and relative to your scope of the impact it can have within the organization. You have to be realistic about it. But you know, the significant gift that you're giving to your favorite charity is going to make a difference. And my friend Dave, who I was talking about, he loves our volunteers. He loves the people who are in the ground and in the trenches. He has such respect for our staff and our volunteers. And he shared a story that he was interested in being part of a nonprofit organization when he was much younger, but he was part of his family's business. And someone told him, Dave, you're better off working for your family's business than you are getting involved with some nonprofit. Your skills and personality are definitely more geared to this family business. And he did that. He followed the advice he was given, but he never lost sight of ways he can help his favorite charities and organizations and things that he cared about. And now, he's an engaged philanthropist. He absolutely gets it. And it's not a shortcut to give financially. It's just another way you can help an organization. It's another need organizations have. And it can make real measurable impact. It's another way to make a difference. So you may have a career where you're out championing your favorite cause, or you may have flexibility in time so you can volunteer. But if not, fall back and remember the 3 T's: time, talent, treasure. You can give your time and talent. You can give your treasure. And these are ways we can all stay engaged and lean into what matters to each of us. And I feel like we do all share some responsibility to help where help is needed. And it's just a matter of never losing sight of your purpose, never losing sight of what you're passionate about, and never forgetting that even the littlest efforts make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. That was very meaningful for all of us to hear, and reminding us of the 3 T's, as you say: time, talent, and treasure. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, I'm pleased to introduce, is Jennifer Wilhelm. Jennifer is currently pursuing a doctoral degree in natural resources and environmental studies at the University of New Hampshire. She also works as a research associate with the New Hampshire Food Alliance at the University of New Hampshire Sustainability Institute, and still finds time to manage Fat Peach Farm. I hope I got that right. Fat Peach Farm, a small organic farm that produces over 100 varieties of fruits, vegetables, herbs, and cut flowers. Between earning her master's degree from UNH and starting a doctoral program, Jennifer made history at Phillips Exeter Academy in Exeter, New Hampshire, by serving as the school's first sustainability coordinator. In this role, she designed and established the school's first campus-wide sustainability program. Please, let's welcome Jennifer. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to take a moment to invite you to close your eyes. We're going to time travel. It's hard to see everybody, but close your eyes for a moment. We're going to time travel into the future to the year 2021. Where are you and what are you doing? Are you working? Are you back in school? Are you exploring another country? Now let's get back in the time machine and go even further into the future to the year 2031. Where are you now and what are you doing? Okay, we've magically reappeared in the year 2016. You can open your eyes. How many of you were doing different things at those 2 points in time? Okay. How many of you were doing the same thing? And how many of you have no idea what you're doing tomorrow, let alone in 15 years? Okay. 15 years ago, I was sitting where you are today. And if you had asked me where I would be in 15 years from graduating, I never would have guessed that I would be managing a small-scale farm, working for the New Hampshire Food Alliance, and pursuing a doctorate degree. As a part of the first graduating class of environmental studies majors here, I had the opportunity to see the college go through the process of starting a nascent sustainability program, which, unbeknownst to me at the time, really helped me in my first career as an institutional sustainability coordinator. And during that 10 years, from when I graduated at Green Mountain College to when I went back to pursue a PhD, I taught outdoor environmental education in California, in Georgia, and New York. I became a certified yoga instructor. I went back to school for a master's degree in environmental conservation, and as you heard, I worked as the first sustainability coordinator at Phillips Exeter Academy. But during that decade, I also started to explore the food system. And I worked on several farms. I started a couple of community gardens. And through that 10 years, I really learned that I felt most at home in the farming world. But I wasn't ready to settle down and farm full-time just yet. I really wanted to learn about how I could influence the food system beyond the farm scale. So in 2011, I decided to go back to school for a PhD in agroecology and food systems, and I didn't want to go into debt. So I shopped around, I talked to a couple different professors, I went to different institutions, and I waited until I got an offer that included tuition, health insurance, and a salary. Did you know that you can go back to graduate school and get paid? And not just as a PhD student, but many master's students get paid as well. So while having that funding made it feel like I was just taking another job, it was actually a really difficult transition to go from institutional sustainability, where I felt like an expert, to being a student again. And in a highly competitive world where publications are the highest markers of success. Even with several years of professional experience, I had to start over. So I had no publications from my master's degree. It took me 4 years to submit my first manuscript, which is still in review for the third time. And all the while we're expected to publish, as graduate students, we're also expected to demonstrate our ability to secure additional funding. So in 2011, when I started, I was out there applying for all sorts of different funding. Applying to federal agencies for scholarships and private institutions for fellowships and looking for small grants for travel and research. And I had moderate success, but nothing major was coming through. USDA NEFA Fellowship, rejected. EPA STAR Fellowship, rejected. Annie's Homegrown Scholarship, rejected. My ego was bruised, and I totally wanted to give up. And just as I was wanting to give up, this academic year was my last opportunity to apply for additional funding. So specifically dissertation year fellowships. And after 4 years and over a dozen rejections, I received one of the 3 dissertation year fellowships I applied for and have been selected as a finalist to interview for a second. So 2 successes in a sea of failures has really taught me the importance of persistence. And now that I'm a year out from graduating with my doctorate, it's easy for me to look back at the road that I just traveled and make the connections for all the different jobs that I had and see how it led me to where I am today. But while I was on that road traveling, it wasn't quite so clear, and I was often frustrated. I'm not sure where I'll be 15 years from now, but I know that right now I'm really happy doing food systems research and farming. And yeah, I have to look at my notes, hold on. That was a pretty good run, huh? Thank you. Okay, yeah, this is a good part. So, according to PhD Comics, which is a go-to source for a lot of graduate students for college humor, Murphy's Law states that everything that can go wrong will go wrong, case in point. And Murphy's research law states that everything that can go wrong will go wrong unless it's your hypothesis that's actually wrong, in which case there's nothing wrong with your data, you just have to start over again. So whether you go into research or not, you may find yourself starting over again. And personally, I would encourage you to try on different professional hats and explore, but I would also encourage you to explore with intention so that even that fun part-time job can give you skills that will help you succeed in the future. So finding a job that not only supports you financially, but fulfills you personally and contributes to the greater good is most definitely possible. It just may look different at different times in your life. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your persistence in going from transitioning from work to school and on to graduate school. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Amy Hall, is unfortunately cannot be here today, so she's very ill and sends all her best regards to everyone, and I hope we can hear from her at another time. So our next speaker is Phyllis Beloff Webb. Phyllis Beloff Webb founded Magic Fluke Company 17 years ago with her husband Dale. Demonstrating entrepreneur spirit, they saw a need and created a market for their small business manufacturing custom US-made ukuleles at a time when the ukulele's popularity was uncertain. They have remained committed to sourcing people, materials, and parts locally as possible. Their facility is a solar-powered facility. Today, they employ a staff that has helped them design and build over 50,000 instruments. The company now offers a custom banjo, a violin, and electric bass to its market. Supporting the local community has always been present in Phyllis's life. Within 10 years after her GMC graduation in 1981, she was selected as Rotarian for the year. Several years later, she served on the board of directors at a local hospital, and later she was instrumental in revitalizing New Hartford, Connecticut Business Association. She considers her biggest accomplishment to be raising 3 sons, including Ben, who is a GMC first-year student now. Please, let's welcome Phyllis.
Well, it's really exciting to be back here. My first time on this stage in 35 years. It's also quite a perspective as an alumni and as a parent. I come back and I can tell you with what is going on in this school, I am out there cheering it on. I'm proud to be an alumni of Green Mountain College as well as a parent. Good things are happening here. I'm going to take you on a little journey of an unlikely business. Late one morning in early September 1998, I was packing up our oldest son, Josh, not quite 3, and Ben, not quite 1. We were going to head off for the day. My husband, a talented engineer with a fairly big management position, had left much earlier that day to head to work. So it was really unusual to see him come through the door at that time. He had a smile on his face. He also had a real sense of relief. It could only mean one thing. He had gotten his wish. Through the reorganization of the company that he had been working for, his position was eliminated. And finally, he was free from corporate life. I was thrilled for him, and I wanted to celebrate for about 3 seconds until I looked into the eyes of our sons and around the house that we had just designed and built. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, how would we pay the bills? So hold that thought. Flashback a couple of years earlier, my brother Jim was a guitar player most of his life. He had a really big job with Billboard magazine. And on a trip to the Rose Bowl flea market in Los Angeles, where he was living, he discovered a vintage Martin ukulele. He was on and off planes for travel for Billboard all the time, and he hated to leave his wife home, but leaving his guitar home was an even larger problem. The problem, though, was the guitar is cumbersome, and it always had to be checked baggage. So he kept looking at this ukulele and thinking, wow, maybe I could do with 4 strings what I've been doing with 6 for my whole life, and it would fit right into the above compartment on the airplane or safely underneath the seat in front of me. He bought it. He started to look around for sheet music. He started to look around for anything about the ukulele. But what he found was it was not cool. Nobody was playing. And there was nothing to be had, no sheet music. Nada. But he wasn't discouraged. He was really intrigued. And he was inspired to give this diminutive little instrument some respect. So he decided if he couldn't find the sheet music or the songbooks, he would create his own. So he used his connections with the music industry and worked with Hal Leonard, the world's largest songbook publisher. And he created his first book, Jumpin' Jim's Ukulele Songbook. And it sold fast. So fairly quickly, he followed with 2 other titles. And in those days, this is more than 20 years ago, we pushed him and said, why don't you try that thing online? I think you could sell them. So fleamarketmusic.com was born, and it became an instant hit. Who would have thunk it? All right, I'm going to take you back to the September of 1998. Jim knew that my husband Dale was unhappy in the corporate world. Dale was a true innovator. So he challenged him to design and build a ukulele to sell with his books. Dale is not a musician. His college degree is in mechanical engineering. But he was totally intrigued with this idea, and he did a lot of research. He found Maria Macaferri. She's the widow of Mario Macaferri. He was a plastics innovator and inventor. In fact, he could be credited for designing and innovating the plastic clothespin. But that really wasn't his interest. He was very interested in music and musical instruments. So he designed a plastic ukulele, and in the 1950s sold over 9 million of them. Dale was very inspired by that story, and having developed his own expertise in injection molded plastics as well as wood, he redesigned the ukulele, creating a composite of injection molded parts and wood that would be easy to assemble, offer quality acoustic sound, and could be duplicated at a competitive price, most importantly, made here in the USA. Thank you. The first prototype was formed in our toaster oven at home. I did bring it with me, but it's in the car. And that was done within 2 weeks of losing his job. We entered the world of entrepreneurship. We called this ukulele the Fluke ukulele. And at the end of 1998, our little company, Magic Fluke, was born. It took a lot of courage for Dale to go to the annual NAMM, National Association of Music Merchants, trade show. Every musical instrument, songbook, all under one roof from all over the world. It was funny though, there were no ukuleles. So he set up a little booth with my brother Jim. Jim had his books. Dale had 3 prototypes of the ukulele, the Fluke. A lot of people snickered. Some people poked fun at the thought of playing ukulele. It was so passé. But thankfully, there were people, dealers, music people, who were looking to have fresh product in their stores. And they stopped, and they strummed, and they listened, and they liked what they saw. And they ordered. In fact, they ordered enough that Dale brought them home and said, we can go into production. That was very exciting, but very scary. The injection molded parts are very expensive. To build a mold is tens of thousands of dollars, and we needed 2 or 3 molds to get started. And we both decided we had to self-finance this business. So we had a little savings. And what Dale had done was, in his career, had developed such phenomenal relationships with vendors, in particular injection molders. He had built such great respect, good communication, and trust that when he went to them with this wacky idea, they said they would let us pay over time. They wanted us to get our business up and running. They would help. In the meantime, I had to go to work and find a job to pay the bills. But it wasn't long. In 6 months, he said, you know, I need help. Production's going well, orders are coming in, and this little business was taking on a whole life of its own. So we built the first 10,000 ukuleles in our basement, and we hired a few people to come in. That was fun for us and the kids. We outgrew that in a few years, and then built 30,000 flukes and the new flea ukulele in an old historic service station that we had refurbished. And then by 2010, we decided we really needed to expand some more. And so we went to our final place in the Berkshires of southwestern Massachusetts, where we've been making ukuleles, violins, banjo ukuleles, a bass, a cello's on the horizon, ever since. We've become more passionate about what we do. It has become more challenging. Remember, the ukulele was out of favor in 1998 and 1999, and even sort of 2000 when we started. Suffice it to say that we were at the forefront of this ukulele craze, and it has exploded. Everyone suddenly wanted to play. Everyone also suddenly wanted to make one. Why the ukulele? Because the ukulele is the easiest instrument in the world to learn. It's fun, it's gregarious, it's easy to pack up and take anywhere. It's generally very affordable. It's the happiest instrument. And it has finally got the cool factor. We're more and more passionate about manufacturing here in the USA. We do source materials and parts as locally as possible. 15 minutes down the road, there is a wood shop, a family-owned. They make large architectural installations. We approached them and said, can you make some of our parts, our necks, some of the bodies, some of the soundboards? They were excited to work with us so that they could also create an income stream that they never had before in between these one-of-a-kind installations they had done. We partnered with a cabinet maker in our town who was really struggling with the economy. He wasn't sure he could continue to hold on to his studio. So we went to him. We needed a spray booth to spray all of our wooden parts. And we recommended that if we could just rent space from him, then he would have a monthly income stream and he might be able to stay where he is at. And that has worked really well. So business to business has been inspiring to us and to others, as well as a boost to our local economy. We jump at the chance to do that any time that we can. Most of our parts come from Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York. Remarkably, we have the distinction of being the largest ukulele manufacturer in the continental USA, despite the tremendous growth of the ukulele market, since the majority of instruments sold are unfortunately made in China. We've had to be clever in our manufacturing practices to maintain a hold in this market. We continue to innovate and stay ahead, diversifying with all of our different instruments. We work very hard at being environmentally responsible and sustainable, and employ 40 solar panels on the roof of our shop to generate our electricity. We recycle as much as possible, from parts to packing material. It took courage to start our own business. People thought we were crazy. No one could believe we could make a living making ukuleles. We are making a living for almost 18 years. It was never easy, and sometimes, all the time, we feel like we're working harder than ever. We are up against the deluge of imports from China. Our strong dollar has recently impacted our ability to export, making our products now much more expensive. And there is an extra cost for most countries to import products from the USA, while China can freely send their products in and out of several countries at a much lower cost. But we'll save that for another TED Talk. To stay ahead, we continue to diversify and find new avenues for marketing and sales. We have to do it all. But at the end of the day, we are doing something that we are passionate about. We know that our instruments have made a difference in the lives of many on many, many levels. And we know that in a small way, we are making a difference in our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, for that. The story of the ukulele and made in the USA, which is wonderful. Thank you. Our final speaker is Justin Woods. Justin has nearly 20 years of experience as a municipal and city planner, community economic developer, public administrator, and consultant. In January, he received a JD degree with a certificate in environmental law from Pace Law School, as well as a master's degree in public administration from Pace University. He is now in the process of earning a master's in environmental law on land use and sustainable development. At this time, he is a scholar at the Land Use Law Center for Sustainability Development, where he focuses on land use law and public policy topics, including urban revitalization, land banks, and brownfields. He is an adjunct professor at Pace, where he teaches graduate-level courses. He is a fellow at the National Association of Local Government Environmental Professionals in Washington, D.C., where he advocates for federal, state sustainability funding and policies that benefit both local communities. It's my pleasure to ask Justin to come up on the stage. Thank you.
I'm going to bounce back and forth here, use up the whole stage. But Jennifer asked you to do some time traveling and to go forward in time. And I'd like to take you back 20 years, because like Jennifer, I was also one of the first graduates, or one of the graduates from the first environmental law program, the first environmental class here at Green Mountain College. 20 years ago, there wasn't a farm. I helped Philip Ackerman Lice build the first greenhouse and helped him build the barn at his house. But what's remarkable to come back here today is that my mentors and the people who taught me so much are still here teaching you. You're so fortunate to have Bill Troop back in the classroom. Hopefully you'll get Tom Moss-Pugh back there at some point. And Steve Latender, if you haven't had his class, that's important, but get out on the slopes with him too. It was almost 20 years ago that, actually it was exactly 20 years ago that Green Mountain College changed its mission and became an environmental liberal arts college. 2016 marks the 20th anniversary of that. And I was incredibly fortunate to be here at the beginning, to participate in the first block courses that were offered. The very first environmental block course that studied the northern forest. But most importantly, I had one of the most significant experiences of my life on this campus. 15 students walked into a classroom on the first day of spring classes. Without saying anything, Bill Troop stood up and started reading the Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which previously connected them with another. As he did this, Tom Moss-Pugh stood up to play a boombox. For those of you who don't know what a boombox was, it's a big portable radio that people listened to music on before the phones played them. The music started to compete with Bill as he continued reading. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Tom turned up the music. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. Bill's now shouting that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Tom finally drowned him out with the music playing so loud. Hey, teachers, leave those kids alone. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall. When they finished, the class was silent. What the hell just happened? Finally, Tom asked us what Pink Floyd meant by another brick in the wall. This is how we began our semester-long exploration of renewing civil society and how to educate citizens in a democratic culture. It also began for me a lifelong exploration of participatory democracy and social justice. And I've carried these values with me through campaign for public office, through a career in municipal planning, community and economic development, and public administration, and more recently as I study environmental law and policy, sustainable development, and now as I transition to teach as a professor. We have huge problems in this country. Or I should say, huge! Climate change and environmental catastrophe, gross economic inequality, institutional racism and mass incarceration, decaying physical and social infrastructure, voter disenfranchisement, a broken electoral system, and a corrupt campaign finance system. Education has been the ladder for economic opportunity in this country for centuries, but in too many poor, rural, and urban communities, the bottom rungs of the ladder are broken or missing. And for those of us fortunate to reach the top rungs, we're saddled with so much debt that we're essentially indentured servants. I encourage you to identify whatever issue it is that you're passionate about and pursue it as a career like Conte did. You're at a perfect time in your life, in your lives, to follow your dreams with reckless abandon. Most of you don't have spouses, children, or mortgages. Don't be afraid to tackle society's greatest problems because these are the ones that need to be fixed. Most importantly, remember that they can't be fixed overnight. Work on them and seek progress. Spend time with your family and friends. Take lunch, go for a walk. Volunteer in your community, like we've heard, was it? Thank you. I made some scratch on it in the dark and I can't read it, so. Volunteer in your community and see live music because it's good for your soul. The preamble of the Constitution starts, "We the people." We the people of the United States in order to form a more perfect union. It's our collective responsibility to recognize that this more perfect union doesn't yet exist. But individually and on a personal level, we get to choose how we want to make a difference to work towards that goal. For me, it's been smart growth, urban revitalization, environmental justice, and social equity. But you must choose your own path. And remember, whatever path you choose to go down, you're not stuck with it for 30 years. If you make a mistake, or if you become complacent, bored, or just in need of a new adventure, it's time for a new path. That's what led me back to law school, almost 15 years into my career. The government and the economy must serve people, not the other way around. Work is more than a way to make a living. As Phyllis talked about, it defines how you participate in your community. And the dignity of work must be protected and valued. If the dignity of work is to be protected and valued, then the basic rights of workers must also be respected. The right to productive work, to decent and fair wages, and to organize and join a union. This means that you must understand the value of your own labor and the difference between volunteering and doing internships. Volunteering is something we should all do and all be so lucky to have the luxury of time and resources to pursue. It's truly a rewarding experience, and Erin talked about that, and my dad was fond of saying that time was the most precious thing you can give somebody. So if you have the time, how you choose to spend it is very important, and guard it, but be generous with it at the same time. But what I really want to talk about with you today is how the culture of unpaid internships undermines your sense of value, exploits your labor, and depresses the job market. I would advise every one of you to avoid working for free, with the one exception, and that being if it's for credit. I had 3 internships during my time at Green Mountain College, and every single one of them paid me at least $10 an hour, and that was almost 20 years ago. A paid internship does 2 things. First, it teaches you the value of your own labor, and second, it creates an expectation on the part of the organization that what you're going to bring to the table and contribute is of value. And that is remarkably significant in your own growth and development and understanding the value you bring to the table. I carried my experience with paid internships forward and have paid every intern I've hired over the last 15 years. I even fought with 2 supervisors pretty severely with a city manager and the chair of a board of directors of a nonprofit I was running, who both instructed me to create internship programs, but neither of whom wanted to pay interns. I prevailed in both cases, and I paid every one of my interns a living wage. Undergraduate students, $15 an hour, grad students, $20. And when I had recent graduates working for me in the summer, if they didn't have health insurance, I found a way to provide that too. We have a moral responsibility for those of us who are hiring college students to pay them. Now, if you're working for credit, remember that you're paying for the privilege of being mentored. Take responsibility for what you want to learn and stand up for yourself if your expectations aren't being fulfilled. A couple of years ago, I was doing an internship at a big Manhattan law firm. This was a civil rights litigation firm, and I was incredibly excited when they asked me to come in a couple weeks early before all the other summer interns were starting. They were filing a big lawsuit that happened to be in my area of expertise, and they hoped I could come in and help them. And I was eager to. So I got in, I got to do some really great research, I got to build these great relationships with the attorneys that I was working for. I was very excited on Friday afternoon to help them get all the documents together and go down to the courthouse and file it right before the deadline. It was remarkable. So I came to the office on Monday morning bounding. I couldn't wait to get there and see what was next. And the young associate, I say young, she was younger than me, said all the documents that we had touched over the last 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, all had to be scanned, and that was going to be my task for the next week. I was going to stand in front of the copy machine and scan them all in. And I said, you know, I understand how important that is for that to get done, but respectfully, that's not why I'm here. I'm here for credit. I'm here for an educational experience that I'm paying for, because you have to pay for your credits. So I'm here to do legal research, to do legal writing, and to learn about civil rights law. So, you know, I'd respectfully request a new assignment. She was a little taken aback, I must admit. But they gave me new assignments, and from that point forward, I was assigned directly to a partner working on really amazing projects for the entire summer. Now, I tell you this not because I'm saying you should never make a copy or get someone a cup of coffee. You should certainly do what you're asked of. But what I am saying is that you're the master of your own destiny. Take responsibility for your experiences, and to the best of your ability, make them into what you want them to be. And if they're not, speak up and advocate for yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. To summarize, as Tony said earlier, we have fundamental problems because of serious flaws in our political and economic system. Systemic problems require systemic solutions, and the flaws we must remedy require transformational changes. It is time to build new models that move our country towards more sustainable, equitable, and move us towards a more sustainable, equitable, and democratic society. I encourage you to think about what is required to deal with the problems we have. And, excuse me, I need a drink here. I encourage you to think boldly about what is required to deal with the problems we face and dedicate your life to making a difference. Be mindful that your labor has value and respect the dignity and labor of those around you. And remember that your life, career, and education is yours. Take responsibility for your goals in each of these areas of your life. You can choose to be another brick in the wall, or you can choose to be one of the people who helps bend our path towards more political, economic, environmental, and social justice. If you commit yourself to making a difference, you will never worry about making a living, because the metrics by which you define success and happiness will not be determined by material wealth or the size of your salary, but by your actions and contributions to your community. Rather, you'll be helping break the vicious forces of greed and consumption that are destroying our planet and disconnecting us from our families, from our communities, from ourselves, and from the earth. Thank you, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you, Justin, for sharing your story, your calling, and your path, and the importance of dignity and advocating for yourself. Thank you so much. Now let us turn to the audience. This has been a wonderful afternoon. We hope that our speakers' passionate stories relating the joys and the challenges they have faced have served as inspiration and will help you thoughtfully navigate your career path going forward. You will have an opportunity to meet all the speakers today personally at the networking reception at the Gorge that follows after the career panels. Right now, a reminder, the career